Hello, Charles.
Hi, David.
How are you?
Well, it's the end of the week, so how can I not be happy?
End of the week is always good.
Hell of a heat wave, though.
Yeah, absolutely. And
Although I think by the time of publication, the heat wave will be broken.
by rain.
Yeah.
Well, fair enough.
That was one hell of a heat wave earlier this week.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
something that make you appreciate winter.
I know I miss winter so much. So we're going to look at some headlines today.
Yeah, behind the headlines episode. So a few articles to cover this week. Well, the first one, or actually two, are somewhat, I don't want to say related, but
I would. I think they're related.
They're related
To me,
in
yeah.
nature, yeah. So first one, Ferrero to buy Kellogg's.
Ferraro.
Ferrero.
I know, but for the Americans, they won't know what the hell you're talking about.
Ferrero?
Ferrero, like
Fer-
Ferrero Rocher, you
Ferrero
know?
Rocher.
The gold
Yeah.
foiled chocolate with a hazelnut.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Italian company,
Yeah.
spoon maker, has acquired a Kellogg for $3 billion all cash transaction, and that actually was good for the Ferrero share, which got up 9%, and which is good for the company because it had been struggling since it had split from the Kellanova.
Which company?
Kellogg's.
You're right.
The second article is the one where Del Monte files for bankruptcy, cites diminishing demand for its product or canned goods, where consumer habits tend to go towards more fresh foods or other food options. And what has been difficult for the company is ultimately having to store a lot of inventory and have to pay for or increase promotion spending in order to liquidate the product. So you say they are related.
Definitely. Well, because in both cases, you have in one case a bankruptcy from Del Monte, then in another case you have Kellogg's selling itself to Ferrero, which for anyone in North America, so you think Nutella is the most famous brand and the Kinder Eggs, but really Ferrero is sort of the European version of Mars in terms of candy or a sugar-based business. It's a massive, and the family that owns Ferrero is one of the richest families in Europe. It's a massive business, very similar to Mars in that way. But what is interesting? So if I go back to my childhood, okay, what is more iconic or what is more like guaranteed to be in my cupboard? It's going to be some Del Monte can of Del Monte something, probably peaches or pineapple, and then cornflakes, Kellogg's cornflakes, and to see big changes in both of these companies, these iconic brands of the pantry and of the dry grocery, the center aisles of a grocery store. To me, it's just interesting because it is a reminder that although we eat 2,000 calories a day on average across a population, so everyone thinks that the food business is boring. Giants fall all the time. Giants fall all the time. It's incredibly turbulent, dynamic, and fickle industry because food is fashion as much as it is anything, right? Like why is cereal dead? Cereal's dead because we've been told that carbs are sugar and the flakes don't have to be frosted to be deadly to us now, right?
Yeah.
And then with the canned goods, what a bad image it gets now. I mean, obsessed with fresh foods, it's wonderful, but canning is a very good process to capture vegetables at their peak and, be able to preserve them.
Well, I was going to say, as a history buff, I'm sure you probably have a little story to tell us.
It's just interesting. So Napoleon, when he takes over France, he has all these awards for any kind of research, engineering, science, any breakthroughs that could help his war machine. And that's where canning was invented. It was invented and won a prize so that he could bring with his army as they went off to Egypt and Russia, and sometimes successfully, sometimes in great cataclysmic failure, could bring his own supplies of food, including vegetables and meat, and that he didn't have to rely on the countryside he was invading to supply his military with food. And that's where canning comes from.
That's very interesting.
Napoleon.
Oh, good.
Next.
Next article we have, so Amazon deploys its 1 millionth robot and begins rollout of AI. So they claim with 1 million robot, what they had to do simultaneously is to upskill about 700,000 workers across 300 facilities in order to be able to work in conjunction or I don't know if I can say hand in hand, but with those
that's
robots.
what we call it. We call them cobots and
cobots. Yeah. And supported by some generative AI platform that claims that they can make these robot travel 10% less. Travel 10% less in order to achieve the inventory movement, which comes from the analysis of all those.
This is a case. Okay, so very cool. Amazon uses a lot of basically what used to call Kiva robots, and I'm sure there's other robotics, but I'm sure of the population of robots, like 900,000 of them are just the Kiva robots.
Yep.
And I shouldn't be dismissive by saying just the Kiva robots.
Well, the one that moves shelves.
Yeah, that moves shelving, and it's a goods to person picking system ultimately. What I find funny as you think about it, so what do they call it? Deep Fleet? This is their AI engine that's saving 10% of travel of the robots, which is one. It is good. Often, I wouldn't 10%. I don't. Okay, here's what I know. You start programming these fleets of robots, and tasks are getting assigned to these robots almost in a round robin, first come, first serve, first available, first assigned.
Yeah.
And then you can make some non-AI improvements to that task assignment. I highly doubt that there's much AI in the optimizing of this fleet. I think that is marketing bullshit.
Yeah, you're not disputing the ability to analyze and reduce travel by 10%.
Of course not.
Why label it AI?
Right, because what people have to understand, at least in a logistics or industrial setting, there is so much predictability or habit or routine, I should say, in an industrial operation like a warehouse, that the idea that you need a constantly genius predicting system to make these decisions is not credible. I definitely think that they use some machine learning and they used AI processes to develop the tool, but the tool itself is not AI. If that makes sense.
It does. Yeah, absolutely.
But whatever, we're just picking on Amazon
because it's fun to do.
Yeah. Next. What do we got?
We've got, Walmart opens a dark stores.
Walmart opens a dark store. What are we going to do in these dark stores?
Well, pick online orders.
So why do we call I hate this naming convention.
No, there's lighting.
Okay. Yeah, there's lighting and it's not a store.
It's not a store.
Where does this language come from?
It comes from the fact that they say it's laid out like a store so that workers can actually, I don't want to say experience shopping, but at least to pick orders.
But it makes no sense.
No, it doesn't. Yep.
David, if you're saying to me, hey, I'm going to put a mini warehouse in a key urban area such that within a, let's say, 5-mile radius, I can pick and ship orders in under 3 hours. Okay. It's a mini warehouse. It's a small warehouse. Okay. Why is it called a store? I don't know. And then when you say, it's laid out like a store, would you ever slot that mini warehouse?
Of course not.
Why not? Tell me why.
Well, because of the sequence, how a store is laid out is exactly for shopping experience, right? You want your pasta.
Meaning? Well, it's more cynical. It's not just that, oh, I want to make sure the consumer has pasta next to the tomato sauce.
No, but it's also how you will put. I'm not sure what you mean.
What I'm saying is everyone in the grocery industry or any retail industry is building a store experience not for you, well, yes, they want the customer to have a great time.
Oh, yeah.
But for you, the customer, to maximize your basket size.
Yeah.
To take 10 lines of shopping and turn it into 13 lines of shopping.
Fair. Yeah.
And that is not how you're going to run a mini warehouse, you know?
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well,
not credible.
Fair. I think it's a name that stuck because, it's a name that stuck because it's not racking with height, right?
I get it.
It's ground level picking, and most of the inventory is at ground level. Yeah. So for dark stores that were implemented years and years ago, it resembled more store than it resembled a warehouse.
But now you just said it again, years and years ago. Yeah. Like you and I have both done projects in e-commerce, particularly in grocery, probably more than almost
people who open dark stores.
Almost everybody for a very long time.
Yeah.
Like more than a decade, let's say. Mm-hmm. All right. Quite a bit long, 2 decades in our case, okay? Mm-hmm. And so some guru came up with this dark store word. Now it's 2025 and Walmart is bragging about opening a dark store, which it's a very useful thing.
Well, yeah, because it's not crazy as a strategy.
No, of course not.
They claim with this, with the number of dark stores they're setting up, allows them to reach 95% of the American population in less than 3 hours.
Well, that's really interesting because for that to be the case, well, maybe it is true. I just want to point out that Walmart has made forays into New York City before, and those have all crashed and burned. So we'll see. I know New York City is not. What is it's not 5% of the U.S. population. I get that, but okay. Is Walmart really in every other metropolitan area in the United States? Is it in Philadelphia? Is it in Chicago? Could be. I'm just thinking of those on the more densely populated urban areas. Is it in Boston? Like
you need for online grocery?
But whatever. 95% sounds good. That sounds good enough for me. That's impressive. So we're happy you're finally joining 15, 20 years later the dark store strategy, Walmart. But here's the thing, it ain't a store, it's a warehouse, and there are trucks going to come in and out of those stores. So I just make sure you pick industrial locations for your stores because neighbors do not like them.
They do not like
They may be dark, but they aren't silent.
All right, last article for this week. De minimis exemption officially slated to end in 2027. Part of the big beautiful
bill. The Americans have so before 2027, Americans could return home with or have shipped to them from abroad $800 worth of goods,
tax free.
This is cross-border shopping. So imagine the way it was imagined originally would be you're from Burlington, Vermont. You come up to Montreal for the weekend and you shop at Holt Renfrew and you can bring back $800 duty-free, whether you're gone for a day or whatever.
For us would be Plattsburgh, right?
Yeah, but we never had that.
But we didn't. Yeah, fair enough.
It's just a big trip to shop. The reason why, the cross-border shop, but that's actually going to be an important point I want to make a little bit later. Okay.
Sure.
So then Chinese e-commerce platforms started what people would say abusing that.
Temu and Shein.
Yeah, by doing direct shipments from China, abusing the U.S. Postal Service's basically, subsidized postage shipping and shipping from China into America. And many brands, lots and lots of brands that are well known and beloved by the American consumer would set up their e-commerce hubs in Tijuana in order to, if your average order size is under $800, why pay Americans to do the distribution when you can get that done in cheaper land with cheaper labor in Tijuana? Even in Canada, that's a thought, right? Because you can take advantage of currency. So, meaning that $20 an hour in Canada is really $14 an hour in the U.S. or whatever. So, the big beautiful bill puts an end to it.
Yeah, correct. That's it.
Do you know what I find
No.
ironic about that? So, in the first Trump administration, there was a renegotiation of NAFTA. NAFTA was completely re-engineered and became the USMCA trade deal. And one of the points of haggling between Canada and the U.S., the Trump administration was demanding that Canada increase its de minimis to $800. And ultimately, there was some, I think, expansion of the de minimis in Canada, but not to that extent.
In order to make Canadians be able to
in order so that Canadians could go to Plattsburgh, like you said, and bring back $800 worth of goods. That was what the Trump administration was demanding of us back then. And now it turns out that the Americans are adopting the Canadian policy on de minimis and duties. So I find that ironic.
Yeah.
Don't you think?
It is. Yeah.
It's kind of like rain on your wedding day. Anyway.
8 years later.
8 years later. So we'll see what happens in 8 years from now. Maybe everything will work itself out. So,
all right.
Have a good weekend.
Yeah. Covered enough.
Yep. Adios.
Ciao.